Hi, I'm David Lisot, the intrepid coin and currency traveler, going around the country to conventions to talk to the collectors and dealers about what kinds of cool coins and currency they've brought for you, our viewers.
And what I have here is a spread eagle, as it's known. It's an 1863 $100 legal tender note, and it's being offered as part of the C.R. Chambliss collection here at Central States upcoming. And it's actually a plate note in Carlson Chambliss's book, comprehensive catalog of United States paper money. And it's one of the plate notes featured, and it's got the wonderful design here of the spread eagle, you know, a very patriotic design, and you know, this eagle is probably one of the most powerful eagles that appear on U.S. currency, and you know, our national symbol there displayed, you know, and then the back, of course, has the obligation for this series, and you know, the anti-counterfeiting measures employed, you know, a lot of C's, a lot of greens. You know, counterfeiters at the time sometimes missed a corner here, or their design didn't match the original per se, so it was easy to detect a counterfeit note, you know, versus an original.
What kind of value?
You know, this note is going to be, you know, upwards of $100,000 plus. So we're excited to offer it. Then the next note we have coming up for auction is a $50 1869 legal tender, affectionately known as Rainbow note, due to the blue coloration that was used as an anti-counterfeiting device back in 1869, and the Bureau of Engraving and Printing employed you know, techniques to combat counterfeiting. And this note, interestingly enough, was one of the most commonly counterfeited notes. A lot of 1869 rainbows were counterfeited at the time, and you know, fortunately, this is one of the original notes that was used. So we're excited to have this one. This note is also part of the Carlson Chambliss collection we'll be offering in our Central States auction.
What kind of value?
We're talking, you know, $50,000 and up. And then, you know, also at Central States, we're going to have a wonderful selection of national banknotes, as we typically do. This particular note is from the territory of Alaska, First National Bank of Fairbanks. And what's interesting about this note, you know, even though there are a number of survivors, many that are typically encountered are in the about uncirculated grade, and this particular piece is a 63 PPQ, which is, you know, a nice grade. It's well margined, strict originality, strong signatures, you know, a bright, vibrant red overprint, just a dynamite note in a grade that you know, typically isn't seen for this issue.
Why is Alaska so scarce?
The reason Alaska notes are so rare is there were only 3 issuers of national currency. You had a bank in Juneau, a bank in Fairbanks, and a bank in Ketchikan that issued nationals. And you know, the allure and the popularity of Alaska just can't be understated. So whenever a note from the state appears, it's always very exciting.
What kind of value?
You know, this note right here, we're looking at a value of $25,000 and up. Certain to achieve that, and given the fact that it's choice new, should add to that figure. I might be conservative at that number. As well as offering U.S. currency at our auctions, we also are a large auctioneer of premium world notes, and an exciting trio of notes we're offering at Central States is this group of Iraqi notes in conditions that really are never seen for the issues. Here you have a 1936 100 dinars note, in a grade of very fine 30. And for a large format note of this type, which was a large denomination at the time, to stay in this nice condition over the years is just simply incredible. This note will be estimated $40,000 to $50,000 in our upcoming Central States auction. Also having a 1942 100 dinars note in the same grade is just unheard of. I mean, the back is just clean, beautiful. The notes do have some restorations as mentioned by PCGS, but that should not affect the realizations in the least. This is the first offering of this tougher signature combination by us, and this note will carry an estimate of $50,000 to $60,000 in our upcoming Central States auction. And then here is just, a note that just misses the uncirculated grade, 10 dinars from 1942. Again, just a wonderful note in a great grade. This note will carry an estimate of $25,000 to $35,000 in our upcoming Central States auction.
Why is a rock so rare from so recent?
Well, a lot of collectors realize that these notes simply did not survive in great numbers. You look at the dates and you look at the conflicts that were going on in the world at the time. You had World War II that was, full blown, and people just didn't save the notes from these issues. There's some that have survived, but they're much lower grade. They're damaged, they're torn, they're rusty. They're just, and to have notes with this kind of color just doesn't happen.
So we have a collection, the finest there is, of a series that a lot of people don't know about, but transcends both the numismatic world, the philatelic world, also, and paper money people. These are encased postage stamps. This is a 2-cent or blackjack encased postage stamp. Now, these were money substitutes during the Civil War when the hard metal, precious metal was being used for the war effort. So people and the government as well were looking for ways of having some sort of medium of exchange. At first, some people used postage stamps, which hadn't been used in the United States since the 1940s, so people were familiar with them, and each of them had a denomination. But an entrepreneur by the name of John Galt got the idea he's like a button manufacturer or whatever, and he came up with the idea of encasing these postage stamps in a piece of brass, right, and covering it with mica so you could see the denomination, and then selling advertisement on the back. And he got almost 30 different merchants to buy them for a premium and then sell them as advertisement. And there's books written on these and references. And there's almost over 200 different varieties, 30-some different merchants. So you can build a merchant set or a denomination set, 1 cent to 90 cent. And this collection we're selling has 145 different varieties. So that's pretty. And this 2 cent, there's only 4 known.
What kind of value for the blackjack?
It's probably around $20,000 item. There aren't too many encased postage stamps that would cost you much more than $20,000. You can buy a lot of them for the hundreds and still get a good quality item. Another major collection put together by one of our clients and friends, Carlson Chambliss, is Federal Reserve notes and Federal Reserve bank notes. This is part of the regular federal currency series. This is the famous $50. It is the only bank in St. Louis who made these $50 Federal Reserve bank notes, so it's considered the key item. Again, it's a $20,000 or so item, not that expensive for something that's quite popular and rare. maybe around 50 pieces known. So that we have a collection of Federal Reserve notes and Federal Reserve banknotes, over 350 different varieties.
What about the serial number?
Well, the serial number is 899, so it's an interesting serial number. People like that too. And it's not a super gem. I mean, it's a collectible. Great. And then we have a variety of regular paper currency from colonials through fractional, encased, and modern and early and errors, etc. This just happens to be one of the finest known colonial note, and they're not that expensive. You know, they're even a 69 quality item. So obviously, it's hard to get a 69 PPQ of anything, but you have especially something that's hundreds of years old, colonial banknote. So we have a variety of different items, and I just pulled out three diverse and interesting. I mean, they all have a history and story to be told. These are the notes that helped build our fledgling nation when there were still colonies.
What kind of value on the Rhode Island?
You know, a few $1,000, you know, not a lot of money, you know. It's just, we'll see. All of our lots in our auction are unreserved, so we let the collector decide.
These are 2 5 pesos. The first one being here, second one on this page here. Now, they look very much alike, but actually they're quite different. This was made in America, this piece. This was made right in El Salvador, and is quite rare. We were privileged to be able to offer these together so researchers and collectors can compare the two of them together. It's a very special opportunity.
Why are notes from El Salvador desirable?
It's not a large country. They had a limited amount made, and they weren't preserved really. So anytime that early pieces like this come up from the early 20th century, especially when they're in collectible condition like these are, that's a great opportunity.
What kind of value on these notes?
This one comes up a little more often. This is worth about $1,000 in this condition. This is worth upwards of 2 to 3 times that. Even though you can see a couple hinges on the back, it's much harder to find. It's only the second one we've ever had, so it's a real find for someone. Here we have the most popular collecting topic is Queen Elizabeth II. Here we have 2 pieces from Jamaica. Now, they portray Queen Elizabeth II. Queen Elizabeth II is on many countries from around the world. Fortunately, she's still with us, so that is important to collectors. These 2 pieces are in wonderful condition. They're very attractive designs, colorful pieces, attractive backs. Sometimes the backs aren't so attractive. These backs are attractive, and they perform quite well for us. So we're happy about that as well.
How important are the denominations?
This is the highest denomination of the series. This is one of the lower denominations of the series. Some people like high denominations. Some people simply like something that looks nice, that shows Queen Elizabeth II when she's a young person here. So this is. These pieces are from the early 1960s, so we're talking a long time ago. In some ways, it's very miraculous that she's still with us today. So.
What kind of value?
This is worth about $3,000. This is only worth $300 to $400, which is good because it's something that's more affordable for people to get. Now, these 2 pieces are from Mongolia, and they're part of a 6-note series. I call it the Psychedelic set because, for obvious reasons. They're the only notes of this from anywhere in the world that have any appearance like this at all. So bright, so vivid. It just reminds me of the 60s, I guess. And they're valuable. People like them because they're from over almost 100 years ago now, unbelievably. But more so, I think, because of the design. It's such an ornate design that it's just quite appealing. So.
How popular are notes from Mongolia?
Fairly popular. We think of, I guess when we think of Mongolia, we think of Genghis Khan or something like this, but obviously these don't, have any kind of resemblance to Mongolian horns or anything of that nature. Neither does this, which is the series after that, which also is ornate, not quite as colorful, but also ornate. There's definitely a collector interest for Mongolia. The last thing I'd like to show you is a part of a big collection of Philippines that we offered last night. Now, Philippines, of course, historically has a strong connection to America. This is indicated by many pieces that portray George Washington. George Washington was used as a portrait over several decades for the Philippines. These are only two of several different types that he appears on. They happen to be a little better condition, so you can really see the portrait quite well. It's unmistakably George Washington. So they're popular pieces.
Why George Washington?
Because of this strong historical connection between the U.S. and the Philippines. This was, in fact, these pieces are the same size as U.S. notes, small size notes. They were made in the U.S. There's just, until about the mid-40s, right after the war, a strong connection between the U.S. and the Philippines.